welcome to the Unreleased, the Design Research Podcast. This podcast exists to help map, broadcast, and promote design research worldwide. The Unreleased podcast is brought to you by IADE, Universidade Europeia, and UNIDCOM. To know more, visit unrelease.unidcom-IADE.pt. That's .unidcom-IADE.pt. In this interview, Hande Ayanoglu talks to Katja Tschimmel, a design researcher, educator, and consultant specializing in creative thinking and design thinking. She founded the consultancy Mindshake, integrating academic research with practical innovation processes. Her work spans education, organizational change, and sustainability, with a focus on evolving design thinking methodologies. Katja teaches at several universities and actively contributes to transdisciplinary and socially impactful design projects. In this episode, Katja Tschimmel explores the evolution of design thinking from cognitive processes to innovation and social transformation. She shares her journey from academia to consultancy, highlighting the interplay between research, teaching, and practice. Katja discusses Design Thinking 3.0 and its potential in transdisciplinary collaborations and sustainability. She also reflects on emerging challenges including AI integration and the future of design education.
I noticed that design thinking was starting to be used in a different way than I were researching it.
Here is Hande Ayanoglu and Katja Tschimmel.
Hi Katja, thank you for joining us in Unreleased Design Research Podcast. I will start with the question, in which area, themes and topics do you do your research?
Okay, so first thank you for having me here in your podcast. It's nice to be here with you. So my main research, I would think, is in creative thinking associated to design. Also the concept of design thinking and its evolution. And this evolution also takes me to look at design thinking in a broader way. So more new areas to apply it, not only in innovation where we're working, organizational change, but more in sustainability and in social transformation. So I think that these are the areas where I'm researching more.
What about to what extent research feeds your professional activities as designer?
Yeah, okay. I don't know if you know, I guess you know that I have a consultancy in creativity and design thinking. The name is Mindshake, so shaking minds is our mission, we always say. And actually I created this consultancy when I finished my PhD, which were about creative thinking in design. And there's a big chapter about design thinking. And at that time, I were referring to design thinking as cognitive process of designers. And I were actually researching how through design educations we can prepare designers better. But when I finished that, I thought, okay, so now I would like to give something back to society in a way, not to maintain the creative knowledge in academia, but to spread it. So actually research is the basis of my consultancy, and which gives me also a kind of advantage because the organizations with who we are working perhaps trust more the way we are working with them. When I finished my PhD, I noticed that design thinking was starting to be used in a different way than I were researching it. So, you know that now we speak about design thinking 2.0, which is design thinking as an innovation method. And at that time, actually, still during my PhD research, I were analyzing how to visualize a creative process, how you can systematize it. So I was studying design methodology from the 70s and from the 80s, and the change of paradigm in design methodology. And then that took me to really to want to understand better what is the natural process, the creative process, and how can you systematize? How can you make it more operational? So how can you help companies in the innovation departments to work in teams in a better way, so that they understand the team now is in that moment and then they go there. So that were all my worrying. So I started to design a process model with 4 phases, and which I called at the time, I think I called it the creative process model or something like this. And actually my first book goes on that. I wrote a book in 2010. 2010, yeah. But then at that time, IDEO and the CEO Tim Brown has launched this new way looking at design thinking as an innovation method. And there were a lot of discussion about how could you bring that to companies, etc. So I thought, that's an opportunity. So I called then the model the design thinking model, which was the same like the creative process model. And then I worked on that. Actually, that was between 2012 and 2017. So 5 years. But the model itself, which name is evolution, but the model itself evolved also. So I tested it first with students. At that time I were teaching at ESAT in the design school. So in my classes of methodology I were trying out things, and then it was applied in different projects, first in academia, later also with organizations. They started to invite me to give workshops, etc. And then in 2014, I coordinated the first post-graduation in design thinking at ESAT at that time. And that also helped to try out things. And so actually there was a natural evolution and always this coordination between my research, my teaching, and then working with organizations. And that was more and more, and then actually one day I woke up and thought, no, I'm working too much, because then I had a lot of work in with companies. And so then I decided, okay, academia did a lot, so I quitted my work in the design school and dedicated more. I created my company in 2010 after the PhD, but it was my hobby. Actually, I thought all my design colleagues, graphic designers, product designers, they all had their studios, but my focus was the process. So how do you do a studio in a process? But then I thought, no, it's also possible, because I can work with companies focused on the process, and that's what I'm doing until now. And so I created this company. Actually, the name at the time was Namente in mind. But then we had, I think it was 2012 or 13, we had an event with the name Mindshake, which then I invented for this event. And then there was an article in a journal, and it was saying the Mindshakers, the group of Mindshakers. And I said, oh wow, that's much better. So then I registered the brand Mindshake, and now I use it for the name of a company. So just to tell you how my research with practice is always going hand in hand. But where was I? Your question was how is this connected? So you see how that is connected. And actually, then my focus was, then I thought, no, my hobby now is becoming my work. And so from 2015, I dedicated only to my work as a consultant and a trainer in Mindshake. But then came the invitations from the University of Porto and the Porto Business School to teaching again. So now I say normally, teaching now is my hobby. So my main focus is on Mindshake, but I like also teaching and researching. Perhaps I'm also researcher in the Ep9 through University of Porto and University of Aveiro, because I did my PhD in Aveiro, so obviously I have a natural connection, and also to the people, and yeah. So, and still these activities I'm doing with the university and with the students is very good, because now actually I'm teaching what I'm doing. So before I had my consultancy, I was teaching from the books, also in methodology. And I always felt a kind of, that's wrong, because I'm teaching something which I'm not sure if that is really like this. So now my teaching is completely different. So I bring a lot of case stories from my professional life to the students. But my students also allow me to try new things, which I invent, new frameworks, new exercises, new techniques we create, and then I bring them to the companies. So it's a kind of realimentation, what I do between research, teaching, and my professional life.
I would like to also ask you, when you first started regarding design thinking, like the methodology, it's been a long time, right? So, like, how did it evolve? Is it too different than when you started now?
Mm-hmm.
Or like, how do you see it?
Yeah, okay. So when I started, as I said, it was clearly related to the cognitive process of designers. And there is also an international community, the Design Thinking Research Symposium, people who really focus on researching how designers think when they do design. There are different methods, and I refer to all this in my PhD. But then came this fashion up, seeing design thinking as an innovation method. I would not call it methodology. I always say a methodological approach, because a methodology is bigger. It's studying all the methods. So for me, design thinking 2.0 is actually a method for innovation. For all kinds of innovation, could be educational innovation, social innovation, product innovation, service innovation, business innovation, etc. So, and that in the design community, you probably know that, is not really, people don't love that, this kind of success, or there's coming a lot of critic. Some, I think, has good reasons to be critical, because some people do a kind of 3 days workshops. They go to the Hasso-Plattner Institute or the D School in Germany or to Stanford, do a workshop of 3 days and call themselves design thinking specialists, and do then these workshops. And so they are not coming from design, and they're working with people who also don't know nothing about design. So it's a kind of, they're doing kind of repetition of a kind of recipe, which obviously is not existing. And this is what designers criticize, and I think that's right. And actually, one of my problems is that companies then see also this, and then when they ask me to do a training, a coaching, or to develop co-creation with design thinking, they all want it in, if they give me 3 days, they are generous. Sometimes they say 1 day. I said, no, this is a talk. If you want that, I can do a talk. Minimum of a training is a week. Even that, for them, it's a lot of time. That's why at the moment, actually, I'm nearly stopping to do these kind of trainings, because this is what designers really criticize. And I think there's a right to criticize this, but there's also something positive. And this also I have to defend a bit, because when you do these kind of trainings of a week and you work, it's based on design methodology, it's based on how designers work, and you do it for not designers, they will not become designers, obviously, and they will not become fantastically in applying design thinking in their projects, but they get some impressions about a different mindset, and they become a bit more confident of their own creative potential and capacities, which I think is positive for companies. So I would not see it so negative as it is. But anyway, but design thinking itself is also evolving. So now I would think we are in design thinking 3.0, where in my perspectives, designers and professionals, experts from other domains, other knowledge domain, meet to work together on really complex problems, on societal problems, on sustainability issues, really something which at the moment, we are all fearing for our future, isn't it? They're really, really big challenges. And this, if you work on this, you really need professionals from different areas. Only designers can't do anything there because they also don't have the specialized knowledge, but they know how the process is. So instead of criticizing design thinking, I think designers should see it as an opportunity to work with transdisciplinary teams and to be one of the specialists. Others come with other kind of knowledge, which designers can't learn. I mean, we all know designers, either you're a product designer, a communication designer, or whatever. What you know, your disciplinary knowledge, is a process, so you're trained in processes, and also to give meaning, so language, visual language, etc. This is what is really knowledge from designers. All the others comes from other disciplines, comes from, I don't know, ergonomy comes from medicine, or perception theory comes from psychology, etc. So I remember when I was a student, I had only one professor who was a designer in my first studies. All the others came from other disciplines. And at that time I was always wondering, why is not there no designer? I mean, that was in Portugal, and at the time there were not a lot of designers. So project actually was taught by architects, which in a certain way are also designers, so that's okay. But I'm getting a bit lost now because I went back. What I wanted to say is, yes, the evolution of the concept. So I think here's the opportunity for designers is to take their disciplinary knowledge and to go to other knowledge domains. So, I mean, for example, I'm teaching in engineering faculty, in a master in innovation and entrepreneurship. I'm teaching design thinking there. And engineers really appreciate it. It's a different kind of thinking for them. They are not trained in that. And next month I will start a new course also in Porto University, Design Thinking for Research, which will be directed only for PhD students, engineer PhD students, to help them to start their PhD. You see, design thinking can also help there to find a good research questions, and because we designers have just a different way to approaching problems or thematics. So this is what I define at the moment, design thinking 3.0. But I think there is an emergent, a new upcoming, the evolution of design, of the concept of design thinking, which we can say it's 4.0, which is obviously a blended way designers thinking. So again, the cognitive process of designers, but now blended with artificial intelligence. And I think that's really an area where changes will come. I don't know which one, so don't ask me about that. But I'm sure that a lot of things will happen there, even if we have a critical approach to artificial intelligence, which I think we should have, but we can't stop it. And the lobby is just too strong, we can't stop it. So we have to understand how can we use it in an intelligent way to help us, not to make us stupid. That's not, because some people say this. I think there's some research about people who are using a lot now in artificial intelligence that they lose cognitive capacities. So I hope that will not happen, but that we have a wise and intelligent way of using these, some call it a tool, some call it a system of artificial intelligence, but use it in a way that it really improves our thinking and all these different kind of knowledges which we need in a good design thinking process. So we will see.
Okay, could you please name one or two of your projects as a reference?
My research projects,
Yes.
you mean, yeah. Research is my hobby at the moment, so I don't have too much time. So I think the last big research project I coordinated was between 2014 and 17, and this was design thinking applied in education, in higher institution education and training. And this was a 3-year European finance project with a lot of partners. This was my time still at ESAT in Matosinhos. And we applied design thinking in the research process, which was really interesting. And the research report is published, so you can see it. The name is D-Think. And then we developed a toolkit, and the toolkit is for all educators. It's not for design educators, for every kind of educators. And we created 6 scenarios. For example, one is the development of curricula, one is rethinking the way you evaluate, another is rethinking the space of learning and teaching. So we created 6 scenarios and proposed certain techniques of design thinking. And so this is also published, and then there's also online with videos, etc. So I would think that was perhaps, which it's very reference. A lot of people still contact me asking. So there's still happening a lot in education, even now in secondary education, and design thinking is also coming to primary education, which is interesting. So there is something still ongoing. And another research project is more my personal. Every year at Mindshake, we are celebrating the World Creativity and Innovation Week, which is an initiative of the United Nations between 15th and 21st of April. And I started in 2019 do collaborative projects and publishing books. I write and research for these books, but I invite always other researchers and also practitioners, artists also. So now we have 4 books. The last was about creativity for a sustainable future. Another was about ambiguous concept between in the domain of creativity, innovation and design. So this is also research, but it's not this academic research, because I invite always people from academia, but also people from practice, because I think these kind of books should be for a general public who is interested in these subjects. So.
When you consider these research projects, how would you define the challenges or opportunities in this in the design research, design thinking area?
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. I mean, as I mentioned, I think there is a whole world of research needs in what I call 3.0 design thinking in a broader sense, and a way how designers can collaborate with other experts from different knowledge domain in transdisciplinary projects. I would love to see that. So kind of blended processes. And then, of course, how artificial intelligence is being used by designers. I think there are a lot of directions, isn't it? And you can start with graphic design, how with images, all these digital new softwares, etc. But also, I think bigger issues like climate change and also cities. Now, a lot of cities, actually, city councils now are looking also for the knowledge of design thinking, because they promise to be carbon neutral until 2030. A lot of them, I mean, in Porto, that's how it is. And they also heard about design thinking. Also, I mean, I gave some trainings in a department of the City Council of Porto, and I just wrote also an innovation guide for these people, for the city, which will be published soon, I guess. So I think that is also an interesting subject. So how designers can contribute to their cities, to their communities. I mean, designers are trained to be active in any kind of domain, area, problem, isn't it? I mean, we stopped saying problem solving. This is from the 70s, isn't it? Now we say opportunity and challenges, etc. So I think it could be very interesting to see where can we as designers give a contribution to our communities. I would love to see there more research, yeah.
Because we have a lot of new starting researchers. Do you mind highlighting emerging topics in the area for them? Like, where do they need to start? Like, how do they start?
I mean, how do they start? First, what really is motivating them? Actually, when I did my PhD, it's a good question, because it's very difficult to find the domain where you want to dedicate 3 years in the minimum. I mean, I dedicated 7 years. In the middle of that, I adopted 2 children, and I don't know how I survived all that. But I remember the most difficult part was to find what I want to do. I remember I wanted to do something about wisdom or something. And then I had already my 2 supervisors, Fatima Pombo from Portugal and Bernhard Bürdek from Germany. And they were saying, no, don't do that. It's very difficult to go in this direction. And then I said, yeah, okay, creativity, creative thinking. And even there, I remember that once Bürdek said to me, oh, it's a bit esoteric. I said, what's esoteric about creativity? I mean, it's a capacity we all have and designers need. So, but okay, then I got them, and then I focused on the relationship between sapiens and demons. So sapiens symbolic for knowledge, rational thinking, and demons for imagination, emotions, intuition, etc. So I researched all that. But that was very difficult to find this and to start. So, but actually, this was something which really motivated me, and you can see that then was also the base for what I'm doing now. So I think if you dedicate so much time to a PhD, and a PhD is a lot of suffering, because it's also a lot of solitary work. Yeah, I mean, you also have to say that to students. So if you go to that, be prepared, be resilient. And I think then you really need to find something which you think, I want to dedicate my time, my lifetime to that, and it will after that take me to something. Because if you finish a PhD and then you do something else, I mean, that's really sad, isn't it? So I think this is something which people have really to have clear. So first, I would think it's a kind of intro version. Look at yourself, which are your interests, which are your capabilities, and where do you want to work after the PhD, etc. That's one thing. And then you will find something for a topic for the future. And then, of course, you can go to trend reports, see what's... I mean, I do that for my work with companies. We analyze a lot of trends. For example, one is silver society. Our society is getting older. Of course, this is the domain which is important. Yeah. Or health issues. There are a lot of new research in health area. Even some saying that it's possible soon to find a way to live forever. I don't know if I want to live forever, but anyway. But I think in the health area, it's a lot of potential for research, for design research. And yeah, and there are a lot of other trends. Of course, climate change, I think, is very important also. But yeah, in politics, what design can do for politics? we just had this publication with democracy, isn't it? So, but the other system. So I think the most important, of course, you have to see what is trendy, where science, technology is going. So this is one thing, and a society in demographical way. But then listen to yourself, go really deep inside and find something which you really can be engaged with. Well, that's what I would recommend PhD students.
Thank you, Katja, for this invaluable insights. Done.
If you like what you heard today, please subscribe to our podcast on the main platform. For more information about the Unreleased podcast, go to unrelease.unidcom-IADE.pt. There, you can find all the episodes and more information about our guests. Unreleased podcast is the result of the work of the students of Design Culture and Practices course from the PhD in Design program of IADE, Universidade Europeia. It's produced and edited by UNIDCOM.